Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into a topic that I'm sure is near and dear to all of us, spices.
You bet.
Our listener sent in a bunch of sources this time, a cooking blog, a few YouTube videos, even a scientific paper. Seems like they want to spice things up, pun intended.
Definitely seems that way.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're going beyond the basics this time.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Some of the sources are very specific about spices versus herbs. Am I wrong to use the words interchangeably?
Well, there is a technical difference.
Oh.
So herbs are like, the leafy parts of the plant. Think basil, mint, things like that. But spices come from the non-leafy parts.
Mm-hmm.
Seeds, bark, roots,
Hmm.
even some fruits.
Right. Yeah.
Like cinnamon that comes from tree bark, right?
Right.
Turmeric's a root, and black pepper. Those are actually berries.
That's right. The Cooking with Spices blog had that cool visual of a cinnamon stick and the tree it comes from.
Exactly.
It's amazing how something so simple can have such a complex flavor.
And that complexity is what makes spices so fascinating. It's not just about heat, or a single flavor. Spices can completely transform a dish.
Yeah.
You get layers of aroma, more depth, even texture. Think about cloves that crunchy bite,
Yeah.
or how cumin-like coats a piece of meat when you marinate it.
Yeah. One of the YouTubers, Ethan Klabowski, had this great video, Beginner's Guide to Cooking with Spices, and he talked about how spices change the texture of food.
That's true.
It's not just about making something taste good, it's way more than that.
Absolutely. And that's something a lot of people miss. Spices go way beyond masking blandness. You're elevating a dish, making it more complex, more satisfying. They can even make things healthier, by reducing the need for salt.
Oh, yeah. One of the sources mentioned using spices to cut back on salt. That's something I've been trying to do, but without sacrificing flavor.
Makes sense.
How do spices help with that?
Well, like we said, spices add layers of flavor and aroma, right? Those intense flavors keep your taste buds happy, so you're less likely to crave that salty punch.
I see.
And a lot of spices themselves don't even have sodium, so
Yeah.
big flavor, no health drawbacks.
It's like satisfying your palate on a deeper level.
Hi.
Okay, speaking of satisfying the palate, we got to talk flavor profiles. Every source dives into this, but they all have different takes.
Yeah, I mean, you have the basics like sweet, spicy, earthy, and aromatic. That Cooking with Spices blog did a good job breaking those down, like cinnamon for sweet, black pepper for spicy, cumin for earthy, and cardamom for aromatic.
Yeah.
But then you have that YouTube video, How to Season and Balance Flavor, and that goes a step further. It talks about the 5 basic tastes, salty, sweet, sour, bitter, umami, and how spices can hit multiple notes at once.
Oh, the umami thing was super interesting. It's like this mysterious sixth taste, right? Adds that savory depth, and some spices can contribute to that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's all about understanding how those different profiles work together to create balance and complexity. Even within a single category, like sweet spices, you have nuances. Cinnamon's warm, nutmeg's almost floral, and allspice, well, kind of lives up to its name.
So it's not just chucking a bunch of spices in there.
Yep.
There's an art to it, like painting with flavors.
Exactly.
For someone just starting out, though, wouldn't pre-mixed blends be easier, to explore those different profiles without getting overwhelmed?
You're absolutely right. Spice blends are fantastic for exploring different cuisines. They help you get a feel for how those flavors work together. And the sources highlight some really interesting blends from all over the world.
Yeah, the one that caught my eye was za'atar.
Ooh, good one.
The blog described it as this really bold Middle Eastern blend with sumac, thyme, and sesame seeds. Honestly, I'd never even heard of sumac before.
Well, and what's fascinating is how versatile it is.
Yeah.
The blog mentioned using it on everything, baked goods, meats, even yogurt dips.
Wow.
And then, of course, you have blends like Indian masalas, Mexican adobo, and East African berbere, each one with its own unique character.
Oh, yeah. Garam masala, the Indian one, seems to be in a ton of recipes. Is there a reason for that, or is it just like personal preference?
Well, garam masala is interesting because it's not a fixed recipe.
Mm.
It varies by region, family tradition. But you often see black pepper, cumin, coriander, cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, sometimes nutmeg or mace.
Okay.
I think it's popular because it's so adaptable. You can adjust the spices to suit your taste, and it works in so many dishes.
It's like a flavor template you can customize. Okay, so we've got all these amazing spices and blends, but how do we actually use them effectively? Some of the YouTube videos mentioned toasting and blooming, and honestly, I don't know if I'm doing it right.
Right. Help. Well, you're not alone. Those techniques can be a bit mysterious, but they make a huge difference.
Okay.
Toasting whole spices, in a dry pan before grinding or using them, It helps release their oils, so you get that intensified flavor.
So if I'm making a curry, I should toast my cumin seeds before grinding them.
Exactly. Blooming is similar, but with ground spices. You gently heat them in oil or butter, just until fragrant. It releases those flavors into the oil, gives you a more cohesive base for your dish.
So like blooming paprika in oil before adding it to a stew.
Exactly. It's all about maximizing flavor, which makes your food that much better.
Ethan Klobowski's video really went deep into the science of those techniques, too, talking about how heat actually transforms aroma molecules, creating these new complex flavors.
It's true. It's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
You're literally changing the chemical makeup of the spices. It's not just about making them warm. You're creating entirely new flavors.
Okay, I'm seeing why spices are so much more than just something you sprinkle on at the end. There's a real science to it. But with so many options and techniques, it's a lot. What's a good way to start a spice collection without being overwhelmed?
Well, you've got to start with the essentials, the ones you'll use a lot, and then build from there.
Okay, so give me the spice starter pack. What are the must-haves?
Salt and pepper, those are non-negotiables. That's a garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and cumin. Super versatile. You can use those in pretty much anything.
Got it. Pretty standard stuff. But what if I want to branch out a bit?
If you like baking, cinnamon and nutmeg are great to have for heat, cayenne, or chili powder. And if you like bolder flavors, turmeric and ginger are great additions.
Okay, that's a good starting point. Now, once I've got my collection, how do I keep everything organized and fresh? My current spice cabinet is a bit of a disaster zone.
Haha, we've all been there. But a well-organized spice rack can make cooking so much more enjoyable. Get some good airtight containers. Glass jars are ideal, easy to see through, and they won't absorb odors.
Makes sense. And I guess storage is crucial too. I tend to keep mine above the stove. Probably not ideal.
Yeah, heat and light are no good for spices. You want to store them somewhere cool and dark, like a pantry or drawer, away from the stove and direct sunlight.
Noted. Airtight containers, cool, dark place. Anything else to keep them potent and flavorful?
Labeling your jars with the spice name and purchase date is helpful. You can track freshness and use older spices first.
Oh, that's a good tip. I've definitely had some lurking in the back of the cabinet for way too long.
And whenever possible, buy whole spices instead of pre-ground. Whole spices keep their flavor longer, and you can grind them as needed. The difference in flavor is incredible.
I do love freshly ground spices. Okay, so we've covered what spices are, how they're different from herbs, how to use them, how to store them. What else is there to explore in this deep dive?
Well, we've only just touched on the science behind toasting and blooming,
Yeah.
and we haven't even gotten into the cultural and historical significance of spices. That's a whole other story.
Okay, you've got me hooked. Let's dive deeper. All right, ready to continue our spicy journey? Last time we talked about the basics, the flavor profiles, some essential techniques. But I'm really curious about the science behind it all, like you mentioned. What's actually going on with those techniques, like toasting and blooming?
Well, it all comes down to aroma molecules.
Aroma molecules.
Yeah, those tiny chemical compounds that give spices their smell and taste. Every spice has its own unique blend of these molecules. And when you apply heat, things get really interesting.
Interesting how.
Well, you're basically transforming those molecules, creating entirely new flavor compounds.
So it's not just about warming up the spices, you're actually changing their chemical composition.
Exactly. It's like unlocking a secret compartment within the spice. You're releasing and transforming those aroma molecules, creating new ones with different flavor profiles.
That reminds me of Ethan Klobowski's video, The Beginner's Guide to Cooking with Spices. He actually demonstrated the difference between toasted and untoasted cumin seeds. The toasted ones smelled so much more intense.
Right. And that's because some of the aroma molecules evaporated, while others went through chemical reactions, creating new molecules with different flavors.
Wow, so toasting and blooming aren't just techniques, they're like mini chemistry experiments in our kitchens.
It's true.
This is blowing my mind.
And this concept of aroma molecule transformation applies to other cooking methods as well, like slow cooking. That lets the spices release their flavors gradually over time, creating more nuanced, mellow flavor.
Which is why those slow-cooked stews and braises taste so rich and complex.
Exactly. It gives those spices time to really work their magic. So think about heat and time when you're cooking with spices. It makes a huge difference in the final flavor.
Challenge accepted. I'm ready to put on my mad scientist hat. But before I go full spice alchemist, you mentioned something else I'm really interested in. The cultural and historical significance of spices.
Ah, yes. Spices have a story that's as rich and complex as their flavors. I mean, we're talking ancient trade routes, empires built on spice wealth, and culinary traditions shaped by whether or not certain spices were available. It's a long and fascinating story.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. It's amazing to think that these tiny seeds and roots and barks have had such a huge impact on history. Where do we even begin with that story?
Let's go back to the ancient world. Way back then, spices weren't just for cooking. They were prized for their medicinal properties, even their religious significance.
So they were like ancient multi-purpose tools.
Exactly. Spices were like the ancient equivalent of pharmaceuticals, perfumes, and preservatives, all in one.
No wonder they were so valuable.
Oh, absolutely. Spices were so sought after that they fueled a global trade network. This connected the East and West centuries before globalization was even a thing.
You're talking about the Silk Road, right? I learned about it in history class, but I never really connected it to spices.
Right, the Silk Road. It wasn't just about silk, though. It was a network for all sorts of goods, and spices were among the most prized. Caravans carrying exotic spices would travel for months across treacherous terrain just to bring these treasures to markets in Europe and the Middle East.
That's incredible. It sounds like something out of an adventure novel.
It was a risky business, that's for sure, but the rewards were high. Spices were literally worth their weight in gold. The spice trade helped build empires, fuel economies, and even start wars.
It's crazy how something so small could have such a huge impact. So how did spices go from being these rare treasures to something we use every day?
That's a great question. It's a story of innovation, exploration, and ultimately a shift in global power. The age of exploration was a big turning point. When European powers started venturing out to find new lands and trade routes.
Right, those famous explorers, Columbus, Magellan, da Gama, weren't they all looking for spices?
You got it. They were on a mission to find a faster, more direct route to the spice-rich East. And their discoveries led to new trade routes, new colonial empires, and eventually to a change in how spices were distributed and consumed around the world.
So it's not just about finding the spices, it's about who controls them.
Exactly. And with colonialism came the exploitation of the regions where those spices were grown. The spice trade became a major force behind colonization, shaping the politics and economies of many parts of the world.
It's a good reminder that even something as simple as spices has a complex and often difficult history.
Very true. And that history is still relevant today. It shapes how we think about and use spices even now.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. It makes me appreciate the spices we have even more. They're more than just ingredients, they're a part of human history.
Well said. And that brings us back to today, where spices are more accessible than ever. We have a world of flavors at our fingertips, just waiting to be explored.
And with that comes a responsibility, right? To learn about where our spices come from, to appreciate their cultural significance, and to support ethical sourcing.
Absolutely. It's about honoring the history, the people behind those spices, and their journey from ancient trade routes to our kitchens.
I love that. Okay, so I'm definitely feeling inspired to be more mindful of the spices I use, but I also want to learn more about how to use them. We've talked about flavors and techniques in general, but what about specific spices and how to use them in my cooking?
That's a great transition. We've laid the groundwork, explored the history, and now it's time to get specific. Let's talk about individual spices and blends and all the amazing things you can do with them.
I can't wait. Let's get cooking. Okay, so we've done a lot in this deep dive. Explored the science, the history, even organized our spice racks. Now I'm ready to actually put all this knowledge to work.
The best part.
I want to learn how to USE these spices, create some really amazing dishes. Where do we start?
Well, we could talk for hours about every single spice, but maybe let's focus on some key players that show just how versatile the spice world can be.
Works for me.
All right, so let's start with something I bet you have in your pantry right now. Black pepper?
Black pepper. Really? I mean, I use it practically every day, but I kind of just, thought it added a generic spicy kick. Is there more to it?
Oh, way more. Remember those aroma molecules we were
More.
talking about? Black peppercorns are full of them, especially when they're freshly ground.
Right.
There was that YouTube video, Herbs and Spices for Beginners. They had a whole segment on this. Those volatile oils, the ones that give black pepper that bite, they disappear pretty quickly once you grind the peppercorns.
Oh,
So that pre-ground pepper that's been sitting in your cabinet probably lost a lot of its punch.
that makes sense. I have noticed a difference when I grind it fresh. But besides, that peppery kick, what else can you do with it?
Well, one of the sources, that scientific paper on flavor perception, mentioned that black pepper can actually help with digestion and nutrient absorption.
Really?
Yeah, It stimulates your digestive enzymes, helps break down food better.
Wow, so it's good for you and indeed delicious. I'm looking at black pepper in a whole new way.
It's a spice that deserves a lot more credit.
Mm.
Now, let's move on to another one that often gets overlooked. Cumin.
Cumin. Love that warm, earthy flavor. It's a staple in my kitchen. I use it for chili, tacos, everything. Anything I should know about using it beyond just tossing it in?
Cumin is really interesting because it shows up in so many different cuisines, Mexican, Indian, Middle Eastern, North African. That Cooking with Spices blog made a great point about it being a bridge between flavors.
A bridge.
Yeah, it can add depth to meat, round out the sweetness in veggies, even balance out the heat in spicy sauces.
It's like a flavor chameleon.
Exactly. And it's often used in spice blends as a base note to give that grounding earthiness, like chili powder, garam masala, even some barbecue rubs. They all use cumin to make a balanced flavor.
It's the unsung hero. Okay, how about a spice that's a little more, well, in the spotlight? Turmeric.
Turmeric.
Yeah.
The golden child, right?
Everywhere. Golden milk, smoothies, even face masks. It's like the celebrity of
You
spices.
got the looks and the talent to back it up. That bright yellow color, that's from curcumin, which is known to have powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties.
Right. One of those YouTube videos, How to Season and Balance Flavor, mentioned that it can even help with joint pain, like natural ibuprofen.
Exactly. And the flavor is just as impressive. Warm, earthy, with a touch of bitterness. Adds a wonderful depth to curries, soups, even roasted veggies.
You know what? I've only ever used turmeric in Indian dishes. Gotta branch out.
Definitely. It's a really versatile spice. Okay, now for something warm and comforting. Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. I mean, who doesn't love it? It's fall baking, cozy mornings, holiday vibes. But is it as versatile as some of the other spices? I pretty much stick to sweet dishes.
You're right, it's often associated with sweets, but cinnamon can also add complexity to savory dishes,
Mm.
especially in Middle Eastern and North African cooking.
Mm.
Think Moroccan tagines. They often use cinnamon with other savory spices like cumin and ginger. Creates this beautiful balance.
Okay, I'm getting hungry just thinking about that. What are some other ways to use cinnamon that I might not expect?
That blog, Cooking with Spices, had a really interesting tip adding a pinch to chili.
It's a chili.
Sounds weird, but it works. It adds this subtle warmth and depth that complements the other flavors.
All right, now I have to try that. Cinnamon and chili, turmeric and roasted veggies. We're breaking boundaries today.
That's the spirit. Be adventurous. Now, we can't talk about spices without mentioning heat, right? So let's talk chili powder.
Yes. Bring on the heat. I love a little spice. And chili powder is my go-to, but there are so many different kinds. How do you know which one to use?
It's important to remember that chili powder isn't just one spice. It's a blend of dried chilies and other spices like cumin, oregano, garlic powder. So the flavor and heat can vary a lot.
Right, some are really mild and earthy, others are super spicy.
Yep. And even the color can tell you something. Darker chili powders tend to be smoky and complex, while lighter ones are usually milder and sweeter.
So if I want real heat, I should go for a darker powder.
Exactly. And if you're not sure about the heat level, start small and taste as you go. You can always add more, but you can't take it away.
That's a good reminder. Okay, so we've covered individual spices, but what about those pre-mixed blends? Any that are super versatile?
We already talked about garam masala, which is essential in Indian cooking, but it's a great example of how spices can work together. Each spice in the blend brings its own unique flavor, and the result is amazing.
It really is a special blend.
And remember, it's not a fixed recipe. You can experiment with different combinations to create your own version.
Fun. Okay, what about blends from other parts of the world? Any hidden gems we should know about?
One that I find fascinating is za'atar. It's a Middle Eastern blend with a really unique flavor profile.
You mentioned that earlier.
It's got thyme, oregano, sumac, sesame seeds, and salt. It's tangy, citrusy, a little nutty, and super versatile.
So how do people usually use it?
It's often used as a condiment, sprinkled on flatbreads, dips, salads. You can mix it with olive oil and use it as a marinade for chicken or fish. And for a truly delicious breakfast, try it on avocado toast.
That sounds amazing. Okay, za'atar is going on my shopping list. We've explored spices, blends, cooking techniques, the history of spice trade. Is there anything else to cover?
I think the most important thing is to remember that cooking with spices should be fun. Experiment, try new combinations, trust your instincts.
I love that. I feel like we've only just started to explore the world of spices.
There's always more to discover, and the best way to learn is to get in the kitchen and start cooking.
I think I will. Thanks for taking us on this spicy adventure. And to our listener, we hope you learned something new and are feeling inspired to create your own culinary masterpieces. Until next time, happy cooking.